Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. Alright, it seems like a lot of Tesla investors are rethinking Tesla now. Not rethinking their decision so much, but more rethinking what it is they actually invested in. A lot of these investors bought closer to the highs. Hey, I know some of you who held from 400 to 100. That's a tough hold. And many others have dollar cost averaged around $300. One of my best friends is a Bitcoin maximalist, and once he had to hold when Bitcoin dropped 90% of its value. He held through it all, and obviously it recovered and went as crazy as Tesla. So what is Tesla, the investment? Or what is the company in reality? Have we invested in EVs, tech, AI, energy, robots, the mission to change the world? I said it once on Twitter, and it was not popular, but Tesla did bubble. We saw it go crazy. Everything was pointing in the right direction for Tesla at one time. Then it suddenly became incredibly profitable with sky-high margins. And then two new massive factories that presumably were going to probably triple production further. It wasn't hard to do the numbers of insane profits times 3 and get to some crazy valuations. But were those profits a fluke, just through some random circumstances at the time? Or will we see something similar return over time? Can Tesla still sport a $500 billion price tag? Can Tesla still one day be more valuable than Aramco and Apple combined? Can ARK Invest be right about a $2,000 potential price tag by 2017? These are big numbers, especially when today's stock price. We're talking about a potential 10 times return on investment. I'd happily take that over the next few years. And you know what? This time, I probably will take the profits, at least a large amount of them. Enough is enough, as long as you can develop the mentality of appreciating having enough, or else forever chasing. In first principles, I am invested in Tesla for the return on investment. I mean, I love the company, product, and mission, but me being an investor, or you, has no effect on the mission, unless Tesla ever needed to sell any more shares with a rights issue. But I would hope they have sufficient cash for whatever they needed. Which, for the record, doesn't include a share buyback. I know various people keep pushing for a buyback, but forget that. It would be insane. We have no idea what kind of economic environment we're headed for. Dry powder is important right now, not trying to push the stock price with the potential risks that could result. Might I also remind you that Tesla have a lot of Capex coming with Mexico and Nevada. That isn't going to be cheap. Not to mention the fact Tesla still got through $2.1 billion in Capex just in Q1. I'm not sure where that all went, considering all the factories are built. I'm guessing it's the Cybertruck tooling. A lot of 4680 Texas lines went into cost of goods sold that quarter too, so that had reduced some of the Capex. But Cybertruck is getting serious. They have a pilot line and production line. I don't recall any major Model 3 pilot line. Tesla are going to a lot of effort over the Cybertruck. One might think it's the most pre-ordered vehicle in history or something, and may have a price point close to $100,000 around its launch. It will ramp slow and create another cash furnace and reduce margins further, but eventually, given the price tag, there should be a huge margin, and eventually it will turn around. Of course, these vehicles also depend on the 4680 ramp. Right, 4680s, no one even cared about them anymore, hardly on the earnings call. Too many whining babies talking about margins, all looking short-term and not thinking about the long-term. Hence why none of them asked questions that actually matter and would actually improve margins in the long run. I can't believe through the entire call, the word Mexico wasn't even uttered the whole time. Look to the future, people. This is a growth company. It's the future that matters. What is the biggest thing in Tesla's future, at least in the next year or so? It's Mexico. Oh, wait, sorry. Maybe FSD will be solved too, which Elon said on the earnings call, and updated we had not heard since an interview a while back with Silicon Valley Owners Club. Wow, that was almost a year ago now. Not that Elon really has much credibility remaining on FSD being solved, but at least he offers us hope. He did in the past at least include some convincing axioms to convince us as to why this year is different, but not this time. I mean, a lot of his mind might have been on the Starship launch the following day, of course. This guy has a lot on his plate. Oh, like what about the time Elon said FSD being solved is whether Tesla is worth a fortune or goes to zero? Was that a little concerning? Is that what we have ultimately invested in here? The company that will pull off FSD in a scalable, affordable way before anyone else. On the earnings call, it was starting to sound like that's how they'll make money on the vehicles they sell if they start having to sell them at break even. Look, the economy is all over the place. No one can make heads or tails of what's going on. Some people say we're still in a boom, with the government pulling the brakes on as much as possible to slow it down. Others think this is the recession, and many think we haven't even seen close to the real recession yet. Personally, I think governments are trying to inflate their GDP so their debt to GDP ratio reduces, and in the meantime, trying to stabilise prices, which is the mandate of most central banks in the world. One single mandate, that's it. Except the Fed also has a second mandate of maximum employment. We have demographics too, baby boomers retiring, potentially opening up more employment for the other generations. In fact, if you think you know about more than 3% of what is happening in the world, then you're simply mistaken. It's far too complex. Alright, so did we invest in a profitable EV company? Yes, except now Tesla have increased their supply by about 50% and had to reduce prices to increase the demand to match. Except Tesla didn't manage to reduce the costs like we hoped with the new factories. That was how it was going to work. In fact, I bet a 4680 kilowatt hour is probably more expensive than a 2170 right now. Is that what we invested in though? A cell that will eventually be the lowest cost way of producing a kilowatt hour with the highest energy density and multiple functioning as the structure of the vehicle to save further weight. Aside from that, the 4680 vehicle actually weighs as much as a 2170 vehicle, except it offers about 50 miles less range. But it's early, and cells can often take years to get right and ramp, especially something as complex as a dry battery electrode. And look, we saw Tesla achieve the dry battery anode. That's got to count for something. We just need them to perfect the cathode at mass scale. But things don't go as well as you hope on a mass production line compared to a lab or pilot line. I wish I could just ask 2 questions about those cells and get to the bottom of this, but we have to listen to people's questions who don't get this company. No, it's the economy, stupid. Although we don't know what kind of economy it is. That's the issue. The uncertainty. Consumer confidence is down as a result. I wouldn't buy a new car right now, that's for sure. Before, I was thinking about trading my Model 3 Performance in for a Highland last year. And it's not just the economy, although related, it's that cars have become more expensive too. As in the interest rates in the US, they're about 3% higher now. On a $50,000 car over 5 years, that comes to something like an extra $5,000 more interest. But in the US, they just got $7,500 off their cars with the tax credit. Except you get that back with your tax return. You still have to buy the car in the first place, and likely finance it. Although next year, it's going to be off the actual sticker price, an instant rebate, which could make a difference to demand. If history is anything to go by, then recessions don't last forever, perhaps 18 to 24 months, and then the economy starts recovering. Except usually in the recession, we have lower rates to stimulate the economy into the recovery. Yet we have higher rates, and likely causing some form of stagflation. We just need to see more disinflation first until they come down, which is what everyone is hoping for. Or something that breaks in the economy and then they'll come down for that too. But Tesla are still selling a lot of just 2 models, particularly one. I invested in Tesla way before any Model Y was even heard of. But that car killed. It was so popular, so much more popular than the Model 3, and with a higher price tag even. Tesla made a highly coveted electric vehicle, and it took the company to the next level. There wasn't even much effort put into it, just a crossover version of the Model 3 with about 70% of the same parts. Well, what about since then? And since Tesla hit an insane market cap too, we've had nothing new. Yet so much invested in R&D and labs testing a new vehicle with new production techniques. Well, what if this new vehicle is even more popular than the Model Y, except this time it's half the price and is affordable to the masses? Will it be a compact? Will that many people in the US actually want a compact though? And yes, the Mexico factory is definitely going to serve the US market. It's too tempting to resist those subsidies and tax credits. It's an insane amount. Yet the vehicle also can't cannibalize the Y or 3 either. So we'll have to see what Tesla end up delivering. Although Tesla gave us the name of the new vehicle. It's the RoboTaxi. However, we're also told the 3 and Y are RoboTaxis too. But what if we get the reveal and it is the actual RoboTaxi? More conviction and belief from the team that RoboTaxis and FSD are coming, and coming soon enough. If Tesla achieve FSD, then the stock becomes priceless. There's no judging how high that could reach. But there's still a big journey from there, like regulation. Although GM managed to get past that, and Waymo. But will people really want to use robotaxis? Will they trust it? Will there be enough of them to replace people's vehicles, especially when demand peaks at rush hour? Still uncertainties there, but still FSD gets solved and shows a trajectory of the March of Nines, then that justifies everything. It will be a very valuable company, and look at the videos. It's mind-blowing. Imagine watching one of those videos of FSD just 10 years ago. You wouldn't believe it. And the fact that Tesla may be able to make them for under $20,000 is more mind-blowing. And we have energy too, which will be growing. If they can make a profit of $100 a kilowatt hour, then over time, Tesla should have 200 gigawatt hours of energy perhaps in a couple of years or so, which comes in at $20 billion a year. But supposedly will deploy much more than that, even more than vehicles, 20 million vehicles. So we're talking about over a terawatt hour a year, which could be $100 billion profit. People say there are small barriers to entry for energy storage, but 1 terawatt hour a year of cells sounds like a big barrier to me. Energy is all about return on investment. If it's a good return, then the demand is infinite, if it's saving money on energy. Anyway, it was tough going through what looked like a bubble and skewing expectations. But perhaps Tesla was never meant to be that profitable that soon. Just look at other growth companies like Amazon and how long it made no profits. And that sure bubbled too in the classic dot-com bubble, yet it went back up again, didn't it? About 40 times more than it peaked in the dot-com bubble. It found new areas to invest like AWS. And it's likely Tesla will too. Some are saying Dojo could be Tesla's AWS. Tesla is heavily invested in application AI for navigation, which can also be used in robots too, which may even be easier than cars, as the consequences of something going wrong have less probability of resulting in death. And the robots can potentially replace labour on the production line, which will reduce costs. It's still relatively early these days for Tesla either way. The team are working out what they have and working out what they can do. We even have new products in new industries coming, like heat pumps. The market can react to strange things, especially with this company. The stock price movements have blown everyone away at times, bulls and bears, but there may not be much to expect it to do for some time. Rates will eventually come down, and one day there'll be another boom, and Teslas may get to crazy prices and margins again. We never know. I look at the climate change movement, and the more governments back that, then Tesla is likely going to get more support. We hear about potential equivalent of an Inflation Reduction Act to come out of Europe too. Tesla just needs to get their costs down slightly more, and we can see those 20% plus margins return when the economy is in better shape. In the meantime, being a Tesla investor might not be as fun as it was in the past, but seeing Mexico break ground will reinstall some confidence. Right now, overall sentiment is low. All the major stock pumps were used earlier this year, and even though the Q4 earnings call actually wasn't that great news, investors didn't care. Everything they heard was amazing news. They heard what they wanted. They were ready to see the stock price to return, and run it sure did. And that will happen again. Investors will change their sentiment and start believing harder again and thinking FSD will be solved, profits will return, costs will come down, and Tesla will be massively profitable. Honestly, the market is that fickle. It is literally bipolar. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.